Patrick, what's this for?
Actually, that's for you guys. We'll get to that in a minute.
What is that?
It's potato. Okay, Tyler, hands off.
Come on, Tyler. Pay attention.
Okay, let me start again. Let me start again. On the board is a chemical reaction that takes place inside certain living organisms. Not us, but certain other living organisms. Okay, I know Grant knows what it is.
I think I know what it is.
You probably do, but hold on. It doesn't matter what it is just yet. Here's what I want you to look at. Number one, you know it's a chemical reaction because you're starting with certain things and ending with something else. It should also look very familiar, very similar to the one you wrote on the board yesterday. Except what's the difference?
It's reversed.
It's flip-flop. That's right. These were my reactants yesterday, and these were my products. But now, these are my reactants, and these are my products. Grant, what is this on the board? Photosynthesis, okay.
Your favorite word.
Isn't that strange how yesterday we talked about cellular respiration, today is photosynthesis, and the chemical reactions are just flip-flopped of each other. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty weird. Okay. Oh, by the way, I got to clarify something now because I can't say it enough. That equation that I drew on the board yesterday, cellular respiration, plants can do that too. A lot of living organisms do perform cellular respiration. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Now, that is one difference between the formula yesterday and this one. Only plants and algae and some protists are able to do this. So we'll talk more about that in the future. But again, I'm going to draw one more chemical reaction. See if you guys can figure out where it takes place. This one's kind of specific to those organisms that have blood. Sort of, kind of. Okay. Do you need to memorize this? No. But I think it's interesting to show you yet another example of chemical reactions that take place inside living organisms. In this case, by the way, you guys are doing this right now.
What is it? Sleeping?
Okay, well, every one of the little cells in your body is making energy. When every one of the cells in your body makes energy, they also poop out these products.
What?
You don't want these things to stay around in your body too long, in particular CO2. CO2 is pretty toxic. You need to find a way to get rid of these. So all those these waste products of cellular respiration are going to enter into your bloodstream in this form because CO2 can't travel through the blood. It has to take a different form. And then your blood system is going to take it to your lungs. It's all connected, people. All of our systems are connected. This stuff's going to enter your lungs, and you're going to breathe it out. Pretty cool. Again, what's my point? Not so much that you memorize where it's at and what it does, but chemical reaction. Chemical reaction. Chemical reactions are everywhere. All right. Here's my point about today. I'm going to star the little arrows because every place you see a star is basically, at that point, I'm not saying this right. In order to make these reactions go, you need enzymes. So I put a star next to basically every place that's going to need an enzyme. Every chemical reaction, I don't care what it is, needs enzymes to make it go. So that's kind of the word of the day today. The word of the day today is an enzyme. But before I get to the word to that, let me review. Take out your arm, Tyler. Or Austin.
Whoa! They do look alike.
No.
They act alike too. Pity. What?
Hey, I want to review something from last year. You should remember this. They should look awfully familiar. All right. You learned about this last year when we were talking about chemical reactions. Shh. Shh. Guys, come on. Both of these are line graphs showing how energy changes from reactants to products over time. Okay, the top line graph, you have a red line there. That top line graph tells me that the reactants of this reaction, the ingredients, have a low amount of energy. But when it's all said and done, in the end, they have a high amount of energy. They've gained energy. In order to make those reactions go, you have to absorb or input energy. If you remember from last year, that's called an endothermic reaction. Okay. The bottom one. You start off with reactants or ingredients that have a higher amount of energy. When it's all said and done, you get products with a lower energy. Where does that energy go? It's released. Exothermic reaction. Those are your kaboom reactions on Mythbusters and stuff. Okay? Endothermic reaction, exothermic reaction. Both of these type of reactions require what's called an activation energy. We talked about that last year too. An activation energy is simply just the energy needed to make a reaction go, to start a reaction. Okay, so that actually should be a review of last year. Okay, that equation I wrote on the board, photosynthesis, remember, look at it real quickly. You started off with CO2 and water, two little tiny dinky reactants in terms of energy. In the end, you made this big molecule of sugar, C6H12O6. Your product, sugar, had more chemical reaction than your reactant. Which line graph would be represented by a photosynthesis? The top one. Very good. Good. Okay.
How much use?
So photosynthesis is actually considered an endothermic reaction. That's the point. Okay, but remember I told you there's a certain amount of energy that you have to elbow or you have to put into a reaction to make it go. So let me show you this next graph here on the bottom. This ties in enzymes. They're giving you two examples here, a blue line and the red line. The blue line is representing some chemical reaction. I don't care which type, endothermic, exothermic, whatever. It's just any chemical reaction, the blue line, that does not have an enzyme present to make it go. It still goes, but it takes a lot more energy to get it to go. The red line represents a chemical reaction where an enzyme's been added. Okay, wow, that's a change. Because what that enzyme has done is it's lowered the activation energy. If it lowers the activation energy, then the reaction is going to take place much quicker and easier. So, here's what I want you guys to kind of remember. When an enzyme is added to a chemical reaction, it'll lower the activation energy. Look, the hump gets lower. It'll lower the activation energy, thereby letting the reaction go by quicker and easier. Guys, your bodies are filled with enzymes. Oh yeah, every living organisms are filled with enzymes. I don't care if you're a bacteria that's one cell big, you're filled with enzymes. Enzymes are what makes things happen. Enzymes are what makes all those reactions go and take place inside your body. You want to treat the enzymes in your body with love. You want to take care of those enzymes. Because if you didn't have them, you guys would be dead. All right, you guys would not be here. Enzymes, if it weren't for the enzymes inside of you, all those reactions inside of you wouldn't get done quick enough to keep up with your body's demands. You wouldn't make it. So enzymes, obviously enzymes are talked about in biology for that reason. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of words I want you to write down so you remember them. Oh, well, let me show you a picture first. Pictures are fun.
I love pictures.
Look how simple that picture is.
Oh, that's very. What is that blue thing?
That's an enzyme. Okay.
What's that?
I'll tell you that in a minute. Okay. We'll get to the word substrate in a minute, but I want you to look at that big blobby blue thing. That's representing an enzyme. Okay, one thing I get from that picture is, boy, enzymes are, no, they're not blue. They're just blue in this picture. They're a certain shape. Enzymes are actually a very specific shape, and that shape varies from from enzyme to enzyme. This particular enzyme has like this hook shape. All right. In order for that enzyme to stay happy and healthy and active, it's got to keep that shape. We'll talk about some things that might mess that shape up here in a minute. So enzymes have a specific shape. What you can't see from this picture real well is that enzymes are also like these globular 3D structures, okay? It's a protein, actually. Remember how I said that we are big bags of protein? Well, some of those proteins inside of us are enzymes. Enzymes have a certain 3D shape. That little red thing is representing what's called a substrate. That red thing is a substrate, and basically what that means is that is some ingredient needed for a reaction to take place. When that red thing hooks onto that enzyme, just like a lock and key fit together perfectly, when that red thing hooks up with that substrate hooks up with that enzyme, it's going to generate some product that you need. That's kind of the point of this. The point of this picture is also to let you know that they're real picky about who they let in. In other words, enzymes have a certain shape, and it's only going to latch on to those substrates that fit that shape perfectly, just like a lock and key. I wouldn't want an enzyme in my, that's in my body to help me break down carbohydrates or something that's actually going to get misshapen and end up not being able to do that job anymore, kind of a deal. So enzymes are really picky. Okay. Here are some words.
Copy these down?
Yep. Here are some words I want you to be familiar with.
Is it possible to have too many enzymes?
It's bad to not have enough, but to have too many, I don't know. If you don't have enough enzyme, it's bad, but if you have too much enzyme, I don't know. I can't think of an example, to be honest.
I eat
I don't know. I think you would just kind of just float around and not really get any use if there were too many.
So would they die off?
Well, they would die. They're not living things, but would they? No, not just because they would have to have something denature them. They would have to have something to destroy them. We'll get to that here in a minute. It's kind of at the bottom here. Okay, a couple of words. Catalyst is a word. You guys actually might even, if you guys like to work on, you guys have maybe heard of the word catalyst before. It's a very general term. It just means any kind of substance, and it could even be outside the world of biology, any kind of substance that speeds up some kind of chemical reaction. Right? What does a catalytic converter do? For those of you guys who like to work on cars. Does anybody know?
I always cut mine off.
Okay, and it's funny because they're not. I don't think they're one of those things that are absolutely needed. But and this is from I don't know. It was actually something somebody could teach me. But I think a catalytic converter. What little I know. Did you have your hand raised, Grant, or someone back there? No. A catalytic converter does something to change some of the pollutants that the car makes and convert them into other substances that aren't so harmful. Something like that. It's some kind of catalytic converter. It converts one substance to another. I don't know if that's at all has to do with this word, but there must be something inside of there that's going to help basically make that happen in a car. Okay? Anyway, whatever the case. A catalyst is a substance that speeds up a chemical reaction by lowering the activation energy. I kind of abbreviated there, but you get what I'm saying. And then I have over there the activation energy is the energy needed to start a reaction. So I do want you to know those terms. Okay, an enzyme is specific to the world of biology. When you're talking about something biological, like a biological agent that's a catalyst, it's called an enzyme. Okay. And this picture, I tried to draw a picture very similar to what you kind of saw on the other page with the blue blob and the red thing. The blue blob would be representing the enzyme. That red little piece would be representing the substrate. And I just want you to kind of really understand that enzymes and substrates hook together like a lock and a key. A substrate is just some kind of reactant that's going to bind to the enzyme. It's just something that binds to it. Once those two bind up, you're going to make whatever product you need. If they don't hook up, you're not going to be making your product. Okay. Enzymes are really picky. Remember how I said they had this awesome 3D shape? Well, if these conditions aren't just right, they're not going to work right. Temperature. Enzymes have to have a certain temperature where they are this awesome 3D shape. If it gets too high, bad. If it gets too low, bad. They've got to have the right temperature. This is why high fevers are really dangerous. This is why when you get a fever over 104 or 105, that's when you kind of have to go to the hospital kind of a deal. Because the reason doctors worry about high fevers is because all those enzymes inside your body do not like 105. They like 98.6 or whatever it is. And at 105 and above, those enzymes that are all throughout you are going to start breaking down. They're going to start denaturing, breaking down. When that happens, all those chemical processes inside of you aren't going to get done. That's bad. You'll die. Okay, so the reason high fevers are so bad is because it's going to start killing your enzymes. It's going to start denaturing those enzymes that are there to make things go. So that's one example. pH. It's got to be the right pH. I gave you an example. There's that word peptidase there, and I underlined the ASE because I really want you to know that if a word ends in ASE, chances are it's an enzyme. Peptidase. Where do you think that enzyme's located based on the word?
Stomach.
Stomach. Why do you say that?
Because Pepto-Bismol.
Pepto-Bismol. That's probably where they got the name from.
Good job.
Exactly. Peptidase is an enzyme that's found in your stomach and your stomach only. Why? Because peptidase really likes a pH of 2. If that peptidase was in an environment that was a pH 7, it would denature. It would just unravel and break apart. So isn't that crazy? Your enzymes in your body are very specific to where they're located. They're very specific to the environment around them. They'll only work in conditions that they think are perfect. And they end in ASE.
What if you have picky enzymes?
Every enzyme's picky.
Like that don't like the same temperature as the other enzymes.
Then they're just found in different parts of your body. So that's why your body's very compartmentalized. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So peptidase wouldn't be found. You have a different enzyme in your saliva, in your spit. Okay? That enzyme kind of likes it a little more neutral. It's called amylase. Amylase. All right, so you have different enzymes in different parts of your body. Amylase wouldn't be caught dead in your stomach. It wouldn't last 2 seconds, just like peptidase wouldn't be caught dead in your saliva because it would denature. So, concentration. All that means is amount. It's a fancy word for amount. In other words, you better have the right amount of enzymes for it to even be able to do anything. Okay. Questions, guys? Fun stuff? Oh, it's all good. Oh, I'm almost done. Here, why don't we copy down this real quick and then we'll be done. It's not even a full page. 4 major macro. This is kind of a new concept, by the way. The rest of the chapter is going to talk about these 4 major macromolecules in living things. Okay, that's just a fancy word. This macro means big. If something's macro, it's big. If something's micro, it's tiny. Like microscopes look at tiny things. Something macro is big. Macromolecules. All living organisms, I don't care if you're 1 cell big or multicellular like you and me, we are made up of just really 4 different type of molecules for the most part. One of those is carbohydrates. Hey, who can name the other 3? Give me one. Fats and fats would be another one. Very good. We got carbohydrates, we got fats. Who can tell me one more? That kind of goes along with fats.
Sugar?
Sugar's carbohydrate's a fancy word for sugar. Same thing.
Never mind.
Okay, that's okay. We are big bags of
Protein.
protein would be one too. And the last one's kind of hard. It's nucleic acid. That's basically like genetic material. That would be the fourth. Okay, so those are the 4 things we're going to talk about from now to the end of the chapter. We're going to start with carbohydrates here real quickly. And the only thing I'm going to say about them is, okay, primary energy source. This is important, guys. All those cells that make up living organisms prefer carbohydrates to any other substance in order to make energy. This is why when you guys have a big game or a big race or a big meet or a big match, they tell you to load up on carbs. Because when it comes to every cell in your body, your cells prefer carbohydrates in order to generate energy. Now, don't get me wrong, if they don't have carbohydrates around, they're going to turn to something else. Lipids, usually, fats. But for the most part, you can really find your cells prefer this as their primary energy source. That's what that means. Let me do this to make it simpler. That's what I want you to remember that. Remember how if the word ends in ASE, you think it's an enzyme. If a word ends in OSE, you know it's a sugar. Glucose, fructose, sucrose, maltose, galactose, they're all sugars. You don't really need to memorize those, but if you see the word OSE, or the letters OSE on the back of a word, chances are it's a sugar. Oh, by the way, carbohydrates, just is a fancy word for a sugar. Yeah. Hey, I do want you to memorize the molecular formula for glucose. It's C6H12O6. So every time you see C6H12O6, I want you to say glucose.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we didn't get to that. And I won't have enough time. We'll do that first thing tomorrow. I'll show you a demonstration. Hey, can you guys put your